The fight for women's equal rights has been a huge problem all over the world for as long as the human race has been around. The problem occurs not only in everyday life, but also in sports, specifically the soccer field. Women's soccer has been subject to discrimination in terms of pay, respect, and organization since the creation of the sport. Progress has been made, but it is still a huge problem, especially in the United States. People from all over the world continue to fight on and off the field to better the situation. The first Women's World Cup was played in Mexico decades after the first Men's World Cup in 1971. The Mexican women made it all the way to the final, but refused to play until they were paid. Eventually, the players realized that they were not going to be paid and decided that they would play for their people. Although the tournament being held was a step forward for women's soccer, there were still various obstacles that hindered its progression. The second World Cup was hosted in 1991, and it was the first official FIFA women's tournament. The event suffered from poor planning, forcing some teams, like the U.S. national team, to play 6 games in a 13-day span. This resulted in many teams being tired and not well rested. The lack of planning put teams like the United States at a huge disadvantage. Despite the disadvantage, the women from America still made it all the way to the final. The U.S. national team won the final in a heart-stopping match, and no one in the U.S. knew about it because there was zero coverage of the game. Despite the quality of the tournament, there were still obstacles stopping it from reaching the world. The women were neglected by the sponsor Mars that did not fund the team's expenses. The U.S. women were forced to play in uniforms worn previously by a boys' youth team, and it did not receive any prize money when they won the tournament. Strides have been made, but pay is in no way equal yet. Neymar, a single player, earns more in a year than all the women in the top 7 leagues combined. The Men's World Cup also received the special marketing, making it seem as if it is the official World Cup. The Women's was marketed as the Women's World Cup, making it seem as if it is a downgraded version of the tournament. The winners of the most recent World Cup took home $4 million, while the men's winner took home a whopping $38 million. That's more than the entire prize pool for the whole women's tournament. The most popular counter-argument for this fact is that the men's tournament grosses significantly more every time. Studies show that while women teams keep 30% of the revenue, the men's team only keeps 7%. That does justify the gap in some people's eyes, but considering all the other additional problems the players have to deal with, this is something they should continue arguing. Another huge difference is the type of surface they play on. Turf has been shown to be harder on an athlete's body than natural grass is, as it is essentially concrete slab with a type of artificial carpeting over time. The leaders of this undying drive forward is the U.S. women's national team. Despite outperforming the men year after year, they are still provided with less support and pay. They have won 4 World Cups, while the males have won none, but are still paid 38% of what the men are. The counter-argument for the World Cup cannot be used by the USSF because the women's national team generates more revenue. From 2016 to 2018, the women generated $900,000 more in revenue. In the last 5 years, the women won 2 World Cups back-to-back, while the men's weren't able to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. The women earn $2,000 less for a win in the World Cup qualifier than the men make for losing. Another huge argument for the females is the sales they generate. According to the CEO of Nike, the women's national jersey is now the #1 soccer jersey, men's or women's, ever sold on Nike.com in one season. A fact like that should be enough to drive the wages up, but it is not. They still earn $718,750 less for qualifying for the World Cup, despite being more reliable. Luna has also agreed to pay the differences in wage to support their cause. It is a good step forward, but the women are still being neglected by the USSF. As many players have stated, there was no difference after the women won 13-0, breaking the World Cup record. Last year was the time that the women decided to take their case to the next level. On National Women's Day, the whole team filed a lawsuit against the USSF. Then on November 8th, a judge granted the players' motion to be certified as a class action lawsuit. The U.S. soccer president attempted to show that the USSF paid women players more from 2010 to 2018, but the study included a leak payment, so it was not a valid claim. The official trial will be held on May 20th, 2020, but until then the women will have to make do with the advancements that have already been made. New pay structures have been implemented, and women now earn a base salary of $100,000. It is not yet equal, but it is an improvement. Until 2017, The men made 4 times of what the women made for landing a spot on the national team. So far, 11 forms of the Paycheck Fairness Act have been made, to which shows the continuous movement. The U.S. men's national team has also stated that they stand with the women's team. The support for the case seems relatively endless, but it will all depend on the outcome of the trial in May.